Sean Reedy, R-E-I-D-Y, Sean Reedy says, do you find it difficult for your profession to require you to not be your authentic self at times? And he goes on to explain, they go on to explain, we refer to it as acting, but in other terms it could be described as masking. Most people experience this in their workplace, but without the camera. I am sure there were days when you may have been feeling distraught or overwhelmed, but for the sake of the show, had to smile and put on the persona that the public eye was accustomed to. Yes. Yeah, that totally happened all the time. And it's real. And there's a few different places from which I want to address this. I'm going to address it from the hard part first. And the hard part is that, yeah, your sub-question, most people experience this in their workplace, is real, but not everyone experiences it in their workplace to the same degree. I think that women have the experience that men get to show their feelings at work a bit more than your average person. I just think that culturally, women are far more practiced at hiding and masking their emotions in social situations than men tend to be. There's also the fact that I just want to talk about mood and how it affects the people around you. Because when you're at the apex of the thing, which Jamie and Carrie and Grant and Tori and Scotty and Jesse all were on camera, you know, everyone around you wants to get the job done. They want to get the product out. They want to help you get that product out. And if you are in a bad mood, they're going to work towards helping you. The joke on Mythbusters was that I needed a cookie around 4 p.m. But that joke was based on the fact that I tended to reach the end of my rope around then on a difficult day. And the reason I'm pausing so much in my talking about this is because really the long and the short of it is there was a point on Mythbusters when I realized how much my mood could affect my crew. And I'm not a yeller. I don't take out my emotions on the people that work with me. As John Belushi once said while giving somebody a tour of the SNL set, I only yell at the executives, not the staff. That has absolutely been the way that I like to manage myself and my people. And I've definitely gotten salty with the people above me. I think that there are some in my past who would think of me as difficult talent, but only the people that worked above me, I hope. But there was this point at which I realized on Mythbusters, and I went through all sorts of stuff over the 13 years. In the very beginning, I was in a divorce that, you know, had several appearances in court over the years, all relatively minor stuff, all, you know, just the normal rigmarole of separating two lives and co-parenting two children. But at the same time, going to court is expensive and it's stressful. Not necessarily in that order. It is super stressful. And there were some really, really rough days on set when I was dealing with that kind of personal stuff at home and having to maintain. And it's difficult. Your question, do you find it difficult to require you to not be your authentic self? Yeah, absolutely. And after a certain period of time, it doesn't matter what you're feeling. You've got to deliver the thing. So how do you, wait, so I just want to, yeah. So, sorry, I guess what I realized is, I know I'm bouncing around here, but I guess what I realized is when I realized that my mood would have a significant effect upon the crew, I sought to be more circumspect about how vocal I was about what my mood was, specifically because, you know, I was on sets in the early days of Colossal Pictures. Some of the directors I worked for were absolute yellers. They were looking for someone to blame. They loved nothing more than chewing somebody out. And I was on the business end of a few of those over my early commercial days. And that sucks. But even more than it's sucking interpersonally, it's like when a director is walking around and they're fuming, the whole room it's rough. And when they're pretending that they're not, it feels like you're being gaslit. So I definitely learned to be more in the camp of, if I'm feeling a certain kind of way, just to say, listen, I'm going to take some time away and deal with this and come back. And that is like just coming to the clarity that was the right way to deal with that. I couldn't turn off those emotions when they were happening, but I certainly could really localize them and not make them somebody else's problem. But you asked about being the authentic self. So let's talk about that. I did an appearance at a tech conference in Puebla, Mexico earlier this year. That was a really, really amazing event. And a young Mexican science communicator came up to me, this young man. He was super charismatic, and he was like, I am starting a channel. I want to talk to people. I want to communicate science. What advice do you have for me? And it's always such a hard question, because you're like, there's so many things you want to say to your young self. But right there, I realized that I had something to give him, which is, you might not always feel relaxed. You might not always feel at ease in doing your science communication. But if you're tense, it doesn't mean that your body has to be tense. And the more relaxed you are in your body, the more relaxed the people you're talking to are going to feel. That is just a truism. And so, for stage fright or for stage nervousness, I don't really have stage fright, but I've definitely had moments where I was like, ooh, I hosted an event at the Royal Albert Hall, a sellout crowd for the Royal Albert Hall. That was a heady moment. And I'm sitting there backstage trying to memorize my lines and make sure I'm going to go out and it's going to work. And I'm realizing that I'm super tense, and that's going to show. You can see that. And so I sat there and did a meditation exercise and relaxed the muscles in my head and my face and my neck and my shoulders and my chest and my clavicles and my stomach and my diaphragm and my arms. And I sat and I worked through that, because I know intellectually, even though I might not feel any more relaxed after that exercise, I'm going to look more relaxed. And that's going to yield a feedback from the audience. So I already had that as somewhat of a operating maxim when I started filming Mythbusters. I had already had a lot of stage experience. And I knew that. And so that was to be the kind of thing that I would bring. I mean, and there are also other mitigating factors to help. Like, I would tell terrible jokes just before pieces to camera. Just like telling a shaggy dog joke and getting your crew laughing. It's a great way to for me, there's a great way to settle into an on-camera piece. And my crew will tell you, I've told some of the most horrifying, delightful jokes. And then there's just that moment when the camera's rolling, you feel like shit. Everything feels like it's on you. I've had this experience, and the camera rolls and you think, none of this matters. I'm just going to service the material. It's not always possible, but but it is doable. It doesn't even feel like it's possible sometimes, but it is doable. And I would ask to see the takes to camera, see what I could see coming through. I'm trying to think if there's one other thing I want to say about this. It is that with practice, everything gets easier. This is totally also the other thing. It's not binary whether you are your authentic self or not, depending upon your mood or what you're outputting to a camera or to an audience. It's not binary at all. It is a bandwidth, right? And I will say there's this, I can't remember who said this, who said this at the beginning. It might have been the painter Francis Bacon, said that anybody who practices a lot can get a piece of artwork to like 85 to 90%. And I really believe that. I believe that just practice with no talent, no natural talent, can get you to about 90%. But that last 10% is your whole freaking life. That last 10% is everything you've got. It's not a linear scale, it's logarithmic. And so in those moments when I have had to go on stage when difficult things were happening, or I've had to shoot pieces to camera, I rely on the professionalism of just knowing my craft, of knowing, how to slow down a piece to camera if it doesn't feel right, or watch the take and understand that what I'm doing enough to modify and attenuate it to the camera. It is not easy. Our emotions are not rational, and they should not be instructions for action. But they so feel like it. They really, really do. But frankly, I think the whole world would be served by everyone realizing, and I say this because I have to tell myself this all the freaking time. My emotions are not rational. They are not here. They are fight or flight responses. They are coping mechanisms. They are evolutionary. However you want to couch them, they are rarely rational. They are understandable and they're reasonable given what it's like to be a person, but they're not rational responses to the situation. The degree of danger you might feel is not the actual danger you might be in, I hope. But it's a lovely question, Sean, and I don't think that I've given a specific answer to it, but that is often the case with the questions on this. But it's worth chatting about. It's worth talking about. It is worth inquiring to yourself how much of your emotional life your coworkers have to deal with. Oh yeah, ask yourself that question, then look around. One other thing I will say about this is that a tremendous aid I got for doing on-camera work and for managing all of these things has been meditation, has been specifically Vipassana, breathing meditation. I've been doing it on and off now for 30 years. My practice is in a shambles. I'm a terrible meditator. And even being a terrible meditator, the skills that I have learned from it about relaxing, about taking stock, paying attention to right now, understanding this is what's happening moving forward, are inestimable. And if you're thinking that meditation is too hard to take on, just please know, I'm the worst meditator, and still I cannot bang on enough about the benefits it has given my life. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to support us even further, you can by becoming a tested member. Details are, of course, below, but it includes all sorts of perks, and we're building them all the time. You get advanced word and behind-the-scenes photos of some of our projects. Questions, you get to ask direct questions during my live streams, and we have some members-only videos, including the Adam real-time series of unbroken, unedited shots of me working here in the shop. They are weirdly meditative. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you on the next one.